two things tonight. The first thing I want to talk about is the entrepreneurial process. What do you guys go? What's that? And then I want to talk about creating existence, which is a very startup business concept, but a very vital one. So the first thing about the entrepreneurial process is that it's different. It's massively different. Those of you that have had a life in a corporate life to now, the process that we follow in starting a business is massively different. Yeah, it is different. And once you get a handle on it, it's fine. But in the early days, it's going to always feel like this doesn't seem right, because what you're being trained in your corporate thinking, or is quite different. Or if you're strongly business orientated, it will feel very, very different. So for me, it involves the three things. It's you, your opportunity, and the process. That's what we're trying to do. We looked at you last week or Tuesday. We had a good old look at you. We looked at 4 or 5 different angles, and we looked at you from all different angles to try and understand what resources and what strengths and such we bring to the business. We also need to work on your opportunity, but there's more to do on that. And then we need to think about how do we take you and your opportunity, which we've got to get a good close alignment. We did a lot of that work on you last week, because when we start to talk about your opportunity, which is the next thing we talk about, I want to make sure there's a good alignment there. I don't want there being a misalignment. The opportunity, we've got to then follow the entrepreneurial process in order to create that startup success. So that's what we're looking to do. So let's have a bit of a chat about the entrepreneurial process, how it works. First thing, someone did this, and I thought it was quite an interesting thing, and this deals with the specialist thing that you guys were arguing about before. Some of the important things are that an average age for entrepreneurs these days is about 40. Get a handle on that. So you all thought entrepreneurs was all about young people. And while it does cover the spread, more and more people are becoming entrepreneurs later in life than they are just as 25-year-olds. A lot of the high-tech entrepreneurs, obviously they're in their 20s, but as an average, there's more and more people being older and going into this sort of field. Some of it's probably a bit forced because of the changing nature of work these days, but it is interesting that that's the situation. And industry experience, 75% had worked in the industry for at least 6 years before starting in their startups, yeah? And this is the point I was trying to make the other night, but I didn't get across, that I'm looking for you to talk about the last 5 years that you've been working in a particular area, and you say, and now I want to go and do a startup within that area. I want to go and start up in that industry, because that's where 75% of the successful ones, that's where they come from. It's from the fact that you already have market intelligence about an industry and you're going in to make it a little bit better. We talked about entrepreneurial thinking the other day. There's massive, well, not massive research, but there's a lot of research going on at the moment about how entrepreneurs think differently. And like I say, if you type that into Google, you'll see probably an article that I wrote about it. But all I wrote about is what this person has done in terms of research. That what we don't do is we don't necessarily go and find an idea and then go and marshal the resources to get that idea. What we do is we start with what resources we do have, what's so special about those resources, and find an idea that aligns perfectly to our unique set of resources. So the unfair advantages that you have, the relationships you have, the access you have that no one else has, the market intelligence you have, this is where we've got to build our business. We've got to build our business on our unique resources. And one of those unique resources is you guys. And fully understanding your gifts and your talents. And that's why we spent that time on Tuesday just doing that. And so be aware of that. It's not about finding the right idea necessarily. It's not scanning the market for a really good idea and then thinking, how am I going to go and resource it? What you do is you say, what have I got going for me? What are the special things that I know that other people don't know? And how can I find an idea that perfectly aligns with those resources, you see? So you actually don't try and predict the future, you create it. Because you're actually going to create a future based around your skills and your access and your market intelligence. So that's just how the entrepreneurial process can be quite different to a corporate one. You know, what's our goal here? What's our objectives here? What's our line of action? You know, they have it all hierarchical. We don't work that way. We work completely the opposite. We talked about the available means. This is what you bring to the business, or these are the things we need to bring to a business to make it success. The environment has to be right. The resources have to be good and unique. The experience that you bring has got to be solid. It's got to add to it. And the fit, the personality fits, and that we must make sure that they're all in place. When these are in place, we've got to be very successful. So when we're looking for an idea, because it does start with an idea, and every one of you that's looking to start a business have an idea, don't you? That's where it starts. So we've got to start with an idea. So this is the entrepreneurial thinking, though, is what idea best matches my skill sets, my resources that I control, and the experience that I have. That's what you're looking for. And when you come to see me in a couple of weeks, those that want to chat about your idea, that's what I'm doing all the time. I'm saying, so tell me again, how does this perfectly align with your past or your current experience or your unique resources? How does this idea match? And if I don't feel that there's a match, I get scared, you know, because you think that entrepreneurs take risks, don't you? We're the most risk-averse people on the planet. You might think it's risky, what entrepreneurs do, but we have already tested and thought things out, and we work well within our means, well within the scope of things. And it's usually because we work with what we already know we're strong at. Solving problems is a really good place for finding ideas. So it's an interesting thing. Someone said, well, how do you find a good idea? And I've written about this. Just if you found 3 people complaining about something, there's a good idea. 3 people saying, if only I could get such and such. If only there was, if you hear 3 people within a week complaining about something, there's an idea. And if you're uniquely skilled and resourced to take advantage of that idea, it's not a bad place to start. So don't go listening to complaints and go, oh, that person's complaining again. Take note of the complaints you're hearing. When you hear 3 in a given area in a short amount of time, it's probably an area you should explore for opportunity. I did this when I first came to South Bank at the time, and all I got from teachers are the complaints about what they call an RPL process. And I remember going to Phil at the time, who was an executive here, and I said, there's your opportunity. There's so many complaints from teachers about RPL. If we can come up with a solution there, we can do something. And of course, that's what I did. And I eventually developed a RPL system that works really well for everyone. Everyone loves it. So entrepreneurs solve problems for others and create products and services that serve other interests. And this is where we're going to do a bit of a mindset change, because all of you have come to start a business to make money for yourself. And boy, is that the wrong way to go into business. All of you must come to start a business that solves other people's problems. That's where you got to start. Not start with, how do I make money? Remember, that's the business mindset, which we will get to. But first, we must create something that offers value to customers first. If we don't create that, we don't create a business. You create something that sits there and no one buys with it, because you've got to offer value first. We've got to attract customers, and the way to attract them is doing something for others first. So I want to change your thinking in the next couple of weeks from how do I make money to how do you find a market with a need that you can satisfy. That's where we need to start. That's where our ideas start. So things to consider. I'm looking for what fits. You know, what would you love to do? And that's why we did that personality test and all those things. I want to know that you're going into something that fits with you really well. Maybe you don't have to be passionate about it. I don't know. But it has to fit well with you. It's something that you're uniquely skilled. It's not hard work for you to do that stuff. If you weren't paid to do it, you'd probably be happy to do it anyway. Tell me about that sort of story. Start with the familiar. Don't start with brand new. I get it a couple of times. You know, I've been a secretary all this time, or I've been doing this job, and I've decided to go and open a cafe because the cafe I go to, it looks really good, and I'm going to go and do that. You know, that's the scariest sort of leap that you could possibly do, to not have any experience in the area you're going into. Look for something that needs improvement. We don't need to do brand new. Some of you need to come up with, I need to come up with an idea that's just so left field that no one's ever thought about it. There probably have been thousands of people that have thought about it, but there's no market for it. There's a scary thought about you coming up with something that no one's thought of, or that no one's doing. You know, that worries me. If you've got a really good idea, other people are doing it, and other people are talking about it. The reason for that is because there must be a market. If no one else is talking about it, there's a good chance there's no market for it. So tell me about something that other people are doing and are excited about, but you've come up with a way of doing it this way, a little bit more improvement. And the improvement every one of us can make. If you want an innovative idea that works 100% of the time, is make something that currently exists more convenient. Just that. That's the only innovation you need for business, is this is what people are buying, but this is going to be more convenient. I went down to 7-Eleven the other day, and I've often, you know, this has been an issue for me. You know, you've got a headache. You really just want to solve the headache right now. You go down and they sell you 48 for $4.99 or whatever it is, and you think, you know what, I just needed 2 Panadol to have right now to cure this headache that I've got right now. So that's what they've got now. When you go up to the 7-Eleven, they've got this whole lot of 2 tablets of everything. You just choop. Now, they didn't reinvent the product. What they did, they just packaged it and made it more convenient. And I think, you know, when I see things like that, I say, yep. It just reaffirms my view that one of the best innovations you can do is take something that people are currently struggling with and make it more convenient. Just that innovation alone is one of the safest things you can do, because then we don't have to go and invent whole new industries. Anyway, I'll try and keep moving here, John. Focus on a niche. We're not going to take on the mobile service providers. Maybe we're just going to do exotic covers for mobile services, or mobile phones or something like that. Focus on a niche. Don't tell me about you're going to take on this market and it's a global market. You know, just tell me what niche you're going to be chasing. If possible, start online. I know a lot of you resist this. A lot of you know, but I really want to open a cafe. I really want to rent an office space. I really want to do this. This is, every time you make that sort of decisions, you bring in massive amount of overheads. Not just the rent, but all the outgoings and all these services that you've got to provide. If you can start online, the reason I say that is because there is a high probability, I hate to tell you this, but there's a high probability of failure in your first venture. It's almost, you know, it's in the high 90s. Isn't that a scary thought? So we need to factor that in. So if you think, maybe I'm going to fail in my first venture, let's think about how we could do it in a way that was an affordable loss. And one of the most affordable losses is online. Building a platform online is not that dear. Testing your ideas online is not that dear. If it all goes belly up, you're only out of pocket a few, you know, maybe a couple of $1,000s, that's it. And you've either proved something that it does work, okay, now let's go and do a retail store, or you prove that something doesn't work, there was no interest for it, and we've been in that affordable loss zone. So all of you, I'm going to encourage you, could that start online first? Could our fashion design girls, could they start online first without having to necessarily go to a shop? I'm not saying no to a shop, but let's start somewhere that's got an affordable loss. In other words, it's got a plan that if it doesn't go well, or if it doesn't succeed, then it's not going to take us out of the game for 10 years because we've lost our house, our parents' house, and our parents-in-law's house. You know, we don't want to go that way. We don't have to go that way. Keep your day job. I know a couple of you have said that. I like that idea. You say, I'm going to go and launch a business, but I'm going to keep my day job. Whoa, cash flow is so hard to maintain in a business. Phil and me have been working on a business proposal maybe for 6 months, guaranteed 6 months ago of all happening. The contracts still haven't signed. If we were relying on that, we'd be dead. I'd be half the size I am now. I'd be living on water. If we were relying on something that was a dead cert 6 months ago, because we're dealing with government organisations, it can take like 6 months between going ahead to actually getting a contract to go ahead. So you've got to be careful. You've got to keep a day job to keep cash flow going, you know. So what we want to do is turn an idea into an opportunity. And an idea is not an opportunity, as I'm going to talk to you in a minute about. Ideas are just things that come to us. We can't stop them. You know, we wake up with them, don't we? Well, ideas are just brain, I don't want to say it, but you know what I mean. Ideas are just things that happen in your brain. To create an opportunity requires work, lots of sweat to create an opportunity. And it's not just ideas. And most of us have got the hope. I've got this hope of starting a business, but we want to turn that hope into a profitable business. And that's the process that we're trying to do here. I like this one. I like this example. You know, this is a beautiful sculpture. Michelangelo carved it way back in the Renaissance period. And someone said, how did you come up with that? How did you come up with that beautiful piece? And he said this, he said, I saw the angel in the marble and I just kept chiseling away until I could set it free. And that to me is how you build an opportunity. An idea comes to you, but how you build an opportunity is you chip away at it, you work at it, you create awareness, you test things, you go online and you create products and so you create advertising to see if people would be interested in buying. An opportunity has to be pursued, and I think I say that here. You've got to craft an opportunity. Ideas will come to you, and they are just horrible things. They're the worst thing for an entrepreneur is to have ideas, because you're going to have them all day long, every day. They're useless. They're nothing more than just a breath of, wind going past you. What we've got to do is find the idea that perfectly aligns with our resources and our specialities, and we've got to then craft it into an opportunity. So ideas, I'm lucky here, I've actually called them brain sparks. I thought I was going to use a worse word, but ideas are just brain sparks. They just happen in your head. But opportunities need to be pursued. I want to talk to you a bit about that. So to discover your opportunity, you often need to see the angel in what others see as bland, basic, and boring. Other people might say, how can you build a business out of that? But you can see it. You can see the angel in the marble. And so for a lot of you, you're probably going to get criticism from those close to you. What are you doing that for? That's just crazy. But you can actually see the opportunity, and you know how to craft the opportunity. All right, I want to talk about an opportunity. This is an opportunity for all of us, isn't it? Mm-hmm. We go out today, we buy a lotto ticket, and we sit there and we say, come on. That's an opportunity. I want to talk to you about your opportunity, and it's a completely different animal. This is an opportunity. This is what your opportunity looks like. It's personally compatible, and you probably are passionate about it. You can't do much about that because you're probably good at it. That's why you're passionate about it. It's on your experience pathway. This opportunity that you're talking about, you can actually show, after I ask you a few questions, how you got to it. You say, and I did this many years here, and I did this many years here. And you can actually, looking back, you can see why you're doing this opportunity because it all makes sense. It's actually on your path of experience. You've got unique resources. When you say this opportunity I've got, you've actually already crafted out unique resources, relationships, knowledge, market intelligence, skills, people. You've got it in. You've got some unique resources in play. The timing's perfect. The timing's perfect, not just for you. In other words, you're not having twins the next month. Not only is the timing perfect for you, but it's also perfect for the environment. There's a change that's happening in the environment that's just opening up to make it perfect for you to go into. It actually triggers, or it feels like it's the work you were meant to do. And we can call that destiny if we like, or we can call that life purpose, but it just feels like I was born to do this. And I don't know, when you know that, when you discover that feeling, you can't get rid of it. You were born to do this, and maybe that will come to you. But if it's your opportunity, that's what it'll feel like. It'll feel like, you know what, I was meant to do this. You see the angel. In other words, you can bring innovation. You see something in this opportunity that other people don't. Other people just saw the block of marble, but Michelangelo saw the angel. You see the angel too, but that's your innovation. And if that innovation can be something like, I can see how this thing can be done more conveniently, if that's all it is, it's okay with me. Don't try and be any more innovative, whatever that word is, than simply saying, I've found out how to make it more convenient than what the current offer is. You've got yourself a really clever innovation. Finally, you have the courage to do it. This is where most of us come unstuck. Most of us get opportunities. What I just outlined there before, you know what? They come to us. We probably get a couple of chances to have our opportunity in life, but most of us don't do that bit. Because someone tells us about superannuation or retirement, or you're giving something up, and you go, yeah, sure, and then we all die. So what was the point? So courage is the last barrier to taking on your opportunity, and it will require courage. I'm an entrepreneur by heart, but there's many times I've sat with my face in my hands and I've said, what am I doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? But, that lasts for about 10 minutes and then I get up and keep going, only because I haven't got a choice. There's a point where your commitment becomes so great that you just have to keep going. you don't have a choice. It is a big part of this. It's a big part of your opportunity. But someone asked me on the internet, when's a good time to start a business? And that's when it's a good time to start a business. I don't think it's smart to start a business when you're having to really work hard, when you're having to push down doors, when you're having to sledgehammer down walls. If that's what you're doing, that's not an opportunity. That's something you should need to take a back step and take a deep breath. What I'm looking for is when the planets align. You know, everything lines up. The situation in the environment, your work, your situation, the unique resources, the market, you know, everything lines up and you say, I need to open a business. So I personally think, and this is what I do now, I don't try and push an opportunity that's not there. Wait for the planets to align. They will align. If you're preparing yourself, if you're gathering resources, if you're getting your idea and your process right, it will align. Everything will align and you will start that business, as long as you've got this thing here. If you find yourself the only barrier being, I just haven't got the courage to do it, you're at the last step. You're there. All you got to do is take that courage. All I'm saying is, let's not take the courage and do what I did, which was to sell my house, put it all on race 7, horse 5. It was a bit like that, and I opened a shop in the middle of Queen Street Mall, believe it or not. But that was because banks wouldn't lend to me, so I had to sell my house to do it. I'm not suggesting people do it that way now. So if our goal is a profitable business, which is what it is, we need to have a proven, scalable business model. And as we go in the next week or so, we're going to talk about business models and how to create them. We need to have secure, repeating and referring customers. We need to have customers that are coming back to us and they're referring them to other people. And we need to be uniquely qualified to exploit it. I want to hear about your unique qualification to exploit this opportunity because of either you or the people that are associated with you. By having a proven business model will reduce your risks, and your costs. Your secured, repeating, referring customers is going to give you your sustainable revenue. And you're going to get that usually from exceptional customer experience. So what we're going to do is this, in the next few weeks, leverage your unique advantages to develop a scalable business model. You probably don't understand what scalable is at the moment, but I'll explain it. Capable of delivering a growing and satisfied customer base. All right, I'm just going to race a little bit through here because I want to get this next exercise happening. A lot of you have said, well, I've come to the course because I know, not a lot of you, but you probably thought we're going to do a business plan. Now, we are going to do an entrepreneurial strategic plan, which is quite different from a business plan. We are going to do a business model, which is where we start all of our planning. We are not going to go to, no one uses them these days. Banks talk about them, but usually only just to try and, you know, like I've said before, it's a nice way of them to say no. You've gone up for some money and they said, look, we'd love to lend to you. When you've done your business plan, come back and see us. Because 99% of people they say that to never come back. Because if you tried to write a business plan, if you did, you just about die just trying to write one. Entrepreneurial story. It's more a presentation of about 20 slides that you've got to address. That's the thing that people are using. In fact, more and more startups are getting funding on 10 slides in a presentation. In fact, I had to raise $40 million in a venture capitalist situation, and I wasn't allowed to go over one page. I had to fit my whole story on one page. I didn't raise it for me, unfortunately, but I helped raise the money for another entity. But I wasn't allowed to go over a page, so that's the business plan for you. They didn't want to know the details. They just said, tell us the story in a page. So there you go for business planning. But we tend to think that the traditional business plan, I'm talking about that 50-page thing that we slave over. By the time you get to the end of the business plan, most of it is out of date and useless anyway, and of not real value. But we think it's going to be some sort of magic potion and guarantee success, but it's not going to be. It is a corporate thing. Those of you that have come from corporate governance know that a business plan is absolutely essential in corporate governance. I don't dispute that for a minute. But in a startup, you know, and that's what's happened, that people have gone out and said, oh, you need a business plan, but you don't. I'll show you what we're going to do with a business model and then an entrepreneurial strategic plan, which will do the job that you need to do. And you will go with a proof of concept, which is far more important than a business plan. This whole thing is snowballed, but Today, most people are talking about burning the business plan. The vast majority of entrepreneurs don't use a business plan to raise capital and to go into business. There's more opportunities for raising capital now, and it's not through the banks. It's through things like crowdfunding, which is places like Kickstarter, who have come to Australia in November last year. Kickstarter came here. They're the biggest crowdfunding organisation on the planet. But we have a really good local grown one, which is called Pozible, P-O-Z-I-B-L-E, I think. And they are raising funds for entrepreneurs to start businesses. And those people are not raising funds because of their business plan. They're raising funds because they know how to sell the why. They know how to excite people to say, I'd put $25 into that business because I'd love to see that happen. And I'd love to be one of the early customers. Because how do you research new anyway? Some of you are doing new things. How do you go and research that? The whole thing is going to change anyway. That's the trouble with plans. The opportunity that you're looking at won't necessarily wait. Remember when I said those planets align? That's when you have to act. If you then start writing a business plan, the 6 months later when you finish your business plan, that opportunity is probably gone. It's been picked up by someone else, highly likely. If you're clever about your entrepreneurial process, it will already be in play. Your business will already be started. Those of you that are building your personal brand tonight and working on it and linking to Google+, you actually already started. You've actually already started to open your business. You just don't know it yet. But you're already starting to get profile and followers and this sort of stuff. The business plan is far too rigid. We need to be flexible. And we're going to talk about pivots and iterations, about how we start with an idea, we test it, and we change it. It's a poor selling option. I don't know, you know, I use this story that we went looking for a car for my wife, and the salesman, you know, was trying all these, you know, all these different things, and not once did he pull out the operational manual to try and convince us to buy the car. You know, he didn't say, oh, I've got a 50-page operational manual, which is a bit like a business plan. My wife sat in the front seat and said, isn't this a nice, comfortable seat? We'll take it. So that was her decision making. The seat was comfortable, let's take it. And I'm just trying to point out that the decisions that people make are not based on the manual. I don't think one used car salesman or new salesman has sold one vehicle by producing the manual. You know, they sell it by all the other things. And we've got to do the same. When we're selling our business idea or our opportunity, we've got to sell it with a different motive or a different process than producing a manual. Testing these days, in the olden days, we couldn't test. You can test. If you think you've got a great idea, I'll take you onto Weebly tonight. Let's build up a Weebly website that tells your story. Let's put it out there on social media, on your Facebook, and let's ask people to give us their email address if they're interested. In a month's time, we'll come back and see how many people have given you their email address. And if you say no one, maybe there's not a market for what you've got in mind. You know, if you say we've got 100 people that have signed up, I go, oh, we're onto something here. Take it to another level. Let's give them a free offer of something and see how many take that up. And then we start to get at what we call a proof of concept. Most of the time when you're doing that business plan, guess what? You're not even talking to the customer. You're locked away in your office late at night, tapping away. But have you asked the customer if what you're doing is what you really want? Wouldn't it be far better to just put that aside, cook your cupcakes, go to work and say, girls, who would pay $3 for this? Because they're $3 each. And if you sell out in a fraction, maybe you've got a business idea. Typing away at a business plan at night is not really involving the customer and probably not that useful. The main event also, most of the business plans are talking about 5 years, 10 years, you know, all that sort of stuff. Give us a 10-year business forecast. My goodness, you cannot predict that far ahead. You cannot predict 3 weeks ahead in a business. The whole thing can change so rapidly. The main event for you is not the profit. The main event, those of you who have taken on the responsibility of getting this business started, your job is to get it to break even. That's your only job. Your job is not to make profit. There's people with business mindsets that know how to take a business that's breaking even and turn it into profit. But your job is from now, where you're sitting now, to a business that's breaking even. That's the job. And that's not involved in a business plan. That's a whole different set of skills. It's what's called a beachhead. And we need to be concentrating on how we're going to get a beachhead, not how we're going to grow the business and in 10 years' time we're going to do all these things. You know, that's just pipe dream. That just makes you feel good, but it's not reality. I I will talk about this, and then I might just finish because we've got to do some idea stuff tonight. So when we say we're going to involve the customer in the entrepreneurial development process, we do involve the customer. And when you're talking to me about your planning, I want to say, how did the customers feel about that? When you put that website up and sent it to everyone, how many responded? How many people liked your cupcake? When you went out to 10 or 15 different businesses and said, this is what you're going to do, what was their reaction? What did they actually say? This is what I want to hear. What's what I want to hear as an investor, as a supplier, as anything. I don't want to hear about, oh, we've done a projection, there's 10,000 people that want to buy this and we're going to take 2% of it, which means we're going to make all this money. That's not what I want to hear. I want to hear what 10 people said about your idea. Just tell me the exact words that they said. When you said you were going to do this for them, what did they feel? And when you told them the price you were going to charge them, how did they look? Did their eyes just roll back or did they get it now? So that's what we really want to do. So the customer development process is a process that we're going to do to develop our business. And this is it. We start with a discovery, and that discovery is about our business and business model creation. So we've got to create a business model. We've got to create a model that explains our business. There's about 9 different components, and I need you to explain to me how your business is going to work in regard to those 9 components. Once we've got that, we're going to create a minimum viable product. It's not going to be our fully featured product. It's just the one we're going to go to market and test. And we're going to take that minimum viable product and we're going to test it with customers. And we're going to see what they say. And we're going to, as we get customer feedback, we're going to change our idea. We're going to what they call create iterations. We're going to make small changes. Or we might even create whole pivots where we were going to go this way and we ended up going this way. Phil and me had an idea of going a particular way where at one point we said we can't go there, that's not going to make it. We had to completely change our target customer. Same idea, but sold it to a completely different target customer. That's what's called a pivot. We pivoted on the spot. Once we've got that, then we get into the creation of the business and then finally into building the business, getting the company, the management and those things. So the overarching goal is to turn a set of founding guesses, if you like, into a money-making venture. That's what we've got to do. And most of you tonight that have not started a business, you just have a whole series of guesses in your head. You're guessing that this particular set of things is going to produce a money-making outcome. Well, you know, sadly, for most people, it's not. But we can, and this is what we're going to do in the next couple of weeks, we're going to model up, we're going to create a prototype, if you like, of this idea that you've got. And we're going to sort of model it up to see how it all goes.